Welcome to From Stuck to Scale, Growth Strategies for Small and Mid-Sized Businesses, your guide to navigating growth, transformation, and success in today's ever-changing business landscape. Each week, we'll dive into proven strategies, real-world case studies, and actionable insights designed to help small and mid-sized business owners scale smart, lead stronger, and grow faster. Let's get you unstuck and on the path to sustainable, scalable success. Now your host, Julio Gonzalez.
Welcome back to From Stuck to Scaled, Growth Strategies for Small and Mid-Sized Businesses. I'm your host, Julio Gonzalez, and every week we explore practical strategies, leadership insights, and real-world tools to help small and mid-sized businesses break through barriers and grow with confidence. Today we're talking about leadership behind the mic, how showing up consistently, leading with authenticity, and being a trusted voice can have a massive impact on the lives of others. My guest today is none other than Julie Guy, longtime co-host of Those Two Girls in the Morning on 101.5 Lite FM in Miami. For over 2 decades, Julie has been a morning staple for thousands of listeners, blending warmth, wit, and wisdom in every broadcast. But what makes Julie more than just a radio personality is how she leads with vulnerability, consistency, and community connection. From her early days interning at a rock station to building one of South Florida's most beloved morning shows, Julie's journey is filled with lessons on resilience, reinvention, and the power of just being yourself. If you've ever wondered what it means to lead from the heart and why your presence matters more than your title, you don't want to miss this conversation. Let's get started. And now, welcome to the show, Julie Guy. Welcome,
Hi.
Julie.
Hello. It's so good to be here.
It is so great to have you on the show. I am so excited and super intimidated because you are on the radio every day. And when I got started doing my YouTube videos, I hated my voice, and we talked a little bit one time about how to improve that. And here you are on my podcast.
Yeah. So apparently you moved on from that and you're doing really well. Congrats.
Thank you. I feel much more comfortable these days listening to myself.
And that's what it takes, right? It just takes doing it over and over. I used to hate the sound of my voice. Hate. And yet here I am still talking.
30 some odd years later. So
34 years.
Tell us how you got into radio. I know there was an internship involved, but tell our listeners about that.
So I come from the generation when that's all we had, right, Julio? All we had was the radio. We didn't have all these other beautiful platforms, and they are great and wonderful. But, we had radio. And so the radio was my friend growing up, and I adored music, and the louder, the better. And I used to be very intrigued by the person who was talking on the other end and what did they look like? And oh my goodness. And it was never, ever, by the way, what you thought, which every time someone meets me, I'm always like, oh boy, I'm sure I'm not at all what you envisioned, but that's another story. And then I was in college and I needed an internship and they wanted me to go to the oldie station. And I was, 20 years old. I'm not going to the oldie station. So I went to the Heritage Rock Station in town, as my professor at the time said, well, if you can get yourself an internship at that cool rock station, then go right ahead. And I said, okay. So I went in there and I did. And I just applied like a job. And the woman who was my mentor, who she's still a dear friend of mine today, and we laugh about the beginnings, and it's always funny to look back and laugh. I did everything. I did answer the phones. I went and got lunch. I did whatever I could to just soak up that environment. And I just loved it and never left.
Oh, there you go. And you found your life's passion,
I did, but that doesn't mean you think you're going to do it, right? I mean,
true.
I knew I loved it. I knew I wanted to be here in some capacity. I didn't know I would be on the air. I didn't know how it would unravel. But yes, I found my passion. That's where I felt alive. And I tell people this all the time. If you walk into whatever it is, an environment, a room, a place, if you feel alive there, chances are that's where you need to be.
So what is it about radio that keeps you and motivates you the way that you're saying?
Connection. And it's tricky. Although I'll say these days it's a lot easier to see who it is that you're speaking to. When we were younger, right? We had the phone, and we always encouraged people to call, and sometimes they did, and sometimes they didn't. But now we have social media, which is much simpler. But connection is everything. It's I am always receiving such beautiful messages from people in some way, whether it's that we made them laugh, angry, whatever the case may be. It's a beautiful validation that we're still connecting, which I love.
Yeah, which, it is funny because radio is a one-way connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now that we have social media and you can interact, and I mean, in the past there was no way to comment on anything. You could call the radio station and complain, but that was the extent of it. And now you truly have a legitimate connection with people through comments, on the show directly, and
Yes.
through social media posts.
Yeah, it's nice. Sometimes they're not nice, but you have to take the good with the bad, and you have to grow a thick skin. And boy, that was not fun, but you have to.
So, when someone hears your voice, you start early. What time does the show start? 5,
My
right?
alarm clock goes off at 3:30, and the show starts at 5:30.
So, when someone hears you at 5:30 in the morning, what are you hoping, they get from you? What are you hoping that they feel?
I just hope that they think I'm their friend and that I'm helping them get to work or whatever it is that they have to do. I'm not here to brainwash you or manipulate some type of train of thought in your head. I just hope that maybe something I say, it resonates. You think it's funny. It touches your heart. Maybe you're like, she doesn't know what the heck she's talking about, which is probably more often than anything else. But I hope that just in that, however long your ride is to wherever it is that you're going, that maybe you're like, oh, she sounds all right.
So tell me about your role and leadership, because when I asked you onto the show, your response was kind of like, I'm not a leader, but you are. People are looking to you for reassurance, for peace of mind, for a more tranquil, ride. So talk to me a little bit about leadership, from behind the microphone.
I thought I was intrigued by you telling me that, actually, and I loved your response. I think that I'm a reluctant leader. I think that it also speaks to the fact that we are all leaders in some way, and throughout our lives, throughout our day. And so I didn't necessarily sign up to be like, listen to me and I will show you the way. I think I just wanted to have some fun, and my role on the radio evolved because I wasn't always doing mornings. I was more of a jock, which was like, you talked up songs and you had a funny little anecdote about whichever band you were playing, and you were, shilling whatever event was coming up. And then mornings is a whole different animal. It's a whole different animal that I had to learn on the job, on the fly, and I made tremendous amount of mistakes. But having said that, I realized, I guess, when I did that, hey, I'm all right. I'm all right at this morning gig. And I did have a voice and I did influence. And so I am a leader in that I just share my experiences, and that I hope that somebody can hear them and say, oh my gosh, me too being said in such a way, like we all go through whatever it is. And she went to work this morning. I mean, I went to work on the radio when I lost my parents, both of them, got a divorce, had babies. I mean, I went to work, and you would have never, unless I told you on the air,
Sure.
I still sounded like me because it's my job.
And that authenticity is something that it's funny because it's a thread that's gone through every single one of my podcast episodes. I interviewed Alexis from our leadership group. So it was all about Gen Z and a couple of other folks, and authenticity keeps coming back to be really the central theme of leadership. And that, I think, is something that you bring to the radio show.
You can only, I mean, that's not true. You can be anything you want. But authenticity is the way that you will truly make that connection. I think the Gen Z generation, I have 2 Gen Zers, they have a hard time with it. They are bombarded with so much social media, and this person is an influencer with this, and there's all of that. And so I don't envy them. I think it's tough for them to navigate this world. I navigated it, thank God, without social media. My God, more just because, not because I did anything terrible, because I was awkward and finding my voice. So I don't need any recordings of that. But I think that what I've learned is that the more that I was vulnerable, the more I received feedback, and the more it was a positive exchange. And so vulnerability, I would encourage everybody. That doesn't mean you have to like share your dirty laundry, so to speak. But the more you show people that I was here and now I'm over here and you can make it, I promise, the more people will be like, oh, okay, I might listen.
Social media has done, I think, a lot of damage to today's youth. Especially the whole influencer movement. There's a great insurance commercial, name shall be, kept undercover, for any kind of copyright purposes. But they show the people at the lake, and the lake's beautiful, and let's enjoy it before. And then there's the line of influencers. There have been cases, of influencers that have committed suicide because all they show is the look how wonderful life is, and it's all fake.
Yes.
So like you said, you don't have to, go on the air and say my life is miserable and blah, 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 but you're just being you. And there is a tremendous value in that. And when you look at, my social media videos, I try to be very educational, very factual, because I'm not that guy that's going to be, all hype and everything else. It's you, the person you see is me.
Yeah.
And I may have a little bit more fun with the video, and I may have a little bit less fun with the video. I shot a quick video this morning, and I was told that I looked sad. It's like, okay, maybe I was a little sad this morning. I don't know, but what you see is always me.
But that actually is a perfect representation, because we do have all of that. We have the moments that we're sad. We have the moments that we're happy, that we're funny, that we're silly, that we're intelligent. That encompasses all of you. So in that moment, that was really you. And maybe half an hour later, you were telling a, dirty joke. And that's part of you as well.
Absolutely.
So it's like, it's all you.
No, and it's important as leaders to recognize that, in the people around us, because we don't just lead people that report to us.
Right.
As leaders, we need to recognize that somebody's having a bad day, and give them a break, or, put a hand on their shoulder, or whatever the case may be. And too many leaders, are like, oh, Julie's slacking off today, and it's not just, Julie's being lazy, but maybe something's going on in Julie's life, and a simple, hey, Julie, how's it going today, goes a long way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Look for the clues.
Yep,
because you'll see them if you're looking. Yeah. For sure.
So talk to me a little bit about your I was going to say your relationship with Tamara G. You guys have a very strong chemistry on the show. How did that develop? How does that work? From a listener perspective, to keep things fresh.
I don't believe in coincidences, and so we met about 20 years ago. She worked for the hip hop station at the company we were at the time. And we were on different floors, and we would find ourselves in the elevator at the same time. We both did mornings. And I always thought she was nice, and she thought I was nice. And we were like, hey, how are you? And that was the extent of it. And then one day, she was released from her contract, but they loved her. And they were like, we got to find a place for her that speaks to her a lot about her. And so they had her fill in on my morning show as the news and traffic girl. And I met her and right away, and I just loved her spirit. She's just very, and she hasn't changed. She's very much herself. She never puts on any airs, and she is incredibly transparent and authentic. And that has never changed. And so that little stint, we had a really good chemistry. She had to leave, and then she came back, and we worked. When we finally gelled at that station, our ratings were the best it ever had, and we were together for about 5 to 7 years. I don't remember, to be honest, but it was a while. And then format changes, and things changed, and I moved over to 101.5 Lite FM. And when another opportunity opened up, they said to me, "Is there anyone you'd like to work with?" And I said, "Tamara G." And she came. I think she didn't even have a job, or maybe she had just left a job, or she was going to leave a job. And I said, "You are leaving that job, and you're going to come work with me." And she said, "Okay." And she's, we don't really ever rehearse what we're going to say. We know what we're going to talk about, like a topic. But it's not like you say this and I say this. Like this morning we had a disagreement, if you will. It was a relationship advice, and we have totally different viewpoints. But when it was all said and done, we were like, "Okay, good show." And we moved on. It was great.
There you go.
We respect one another, and that's what's very important.
It's I love the fact that you guys take such a variety of questions, and that's where to me it really stands out. The one of the values that you guys bring to the table. When I was researching background on you for the show, there was a comment from a young lady who had gone through a divorce, and she stated that you helped her, get through it just by listening to your show. And back to my earlier comment, that is, I think, what really makes you a leader. So talk about the impact that you're making on people's lives.
I've heard that from quite a few people about whether it was divorce or when their kids are small and they're going through something. I mean, I've shared quite a bit, and sometimes I feel like, and we can get all spiritual on this too, but sometimes I feel like I almost had to go through those things so that I could be the one to talk about them and make it okay. For whatever reason, that is sometimes my thought. And I always say, "I'm done. Thank you for all the lessons. No more." But yeah, I've had people say that to me about passing. I lost both of my parents, and I was very open about that on the air. I divorced. I was a little more careful about that. I didn't want to drag. I didn't want to make it public, drama, but I was respectful, I thought, about it. But, I am divorced, and I know people go through that all the time. I am a single mom. So those are all the things that everybody can relate to. And if it's not me, it's your friend, it's your sister, it's your brother, it's somebody. So we can all relate in some way to something, maybe not every day, maybe not every situation. So when I hear that from people, I'm floored, and I'm so grateful, because I feel like, okay, we got this. It's hard. Some days are worse than others, but we'll be all right. We'll make it.
One of and this just popped to mind because you said something in there that we've all gone through it. When Andrew hit in 92, the only radio station that I can think of that stayed on the air was Y100.
Yeah.
And we were up 3:00 in the morning, and we're listening to the coverage, and people calling in, their roof peeled off, and all kinds of horrible things were happening. And it was truly incredibly valuable to have that on the air, not to listen to other people's tragedies, but that feeling of we're all in it together and we're going to be okay, together, and that I think is really a lot of, what you bring to the table, back again to, that leadership role that you bring. Because people hear the consistency, in your voice. Every day you're there to help them through traffic, and there's a lot of value, I think, to that. It's more than just the music and the distraction from the traffic, but hearing you and Tamara, with your banter and stuff, it becomes familiar, and that gives a lot of reassurance.
Well, thank you. And that's the thing, like you said it, you don't want to feel alone in whatever situation it may be, even if it's just traffic. Traffic
Yep.
sucks. Traffic in South Florida sucks pretty much every day. She does the traffic every day. And I joke with her because at the end of her traffic, she'll talk about some of the most horrific things. And it'll be like, there's a rollover here and there's this and there's and then at the end, she has to wrap it up. This is the way she has to wrap it up. And she'll say, keeping your ride light on 1015. And I'll say, really? Did you keep it light or did you just stress everybody the heck out? She'll just laugh and go, I have to say that. And I say, I know. So it's just funny.
Yeah, I think the only thing that'll keep traffic light in South Florida is hovercrafts.
Oh my God. I would gladly sign up for that. Gladly.
There's some interesting trials going on with taxi drones, but picture the accidents when that gets started. You are very visible in the community. Part of that, I'm sure, is your job, but you are out there a lot. So talk to me a little bit about, you're involved with breast cancer. You hosted the Hollywood Chamber breast cancer event in February, I believe it was.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about your community involvement.
I love to be around people. I love connection. And yes, a lot of it is work related, and I've had to be out there and I'm seeing a lot of events, but a lot of it was really on my own. I just really wanted to know what was happening in my city. And I happened to meet people because of what I do. And it just one thing led to another. And the more I got involved, the more I enjoyed it. I love to speak to people through all walks of life, all types of occupations, and ethnicities, the whole thing. I mean, I think that's what makes the world go round. It's what makes us so wonderful. And I love it. And every time I've gotten involved, I feel so energized. And so I know it's where I need to be. I know I need to keep doing things in the community. This is what I do of my own accord. And I love it because that's how you meet people. That's what you know is happening in your neighborhood. How else are you going to do it? You can't just read about it. You have to be a part of it and you have to get involved.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I moved into Hollywood, this home, 8 years ago, I guess we just had, and that very first day, moving trucks are outside. Several neighbors, came and said hi, and over the next couple of weeks, and I remember talking to Ricky and saying, in 8 years in our last house, we'd never met anyone. Hollywood was so different.
Yes.
Just that transition, and I think we've lost some of that, which is unfortunate. So what do you do, beyond your social and public activities to help build community?
What do I do? I get involved in like I do. I'm a very physical fitness oriented person. So I like to get involved in 5Ks. I like to get involved in any type of, if you're doing something that needs maybe the word to be spread, invite me because I want to hear about it and I like to talk about it. I have found that through it's, again, I don't believe in coincidences. Things and people just happen to show up when you need them to. And if I know about something, like everyone's always saying to me, everybody, can you hook this up? Do you know this person? And I don't know everybody, but if I don't, I know someone who does. So that's what I do. And through all of my personal extracurricular activities that I do, they have just kind of grown and lent themselves to the next thing that I do. Nothing has ever been rhyme or reason. It's not like I had a plan. I'm going to get involved in the community. I think it just morphed and became. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I do. And then I encourage people. Like, I'm like, hey, you should do this. Like Leadership Hollywood. I've already told 3 people, you need to do this. They're like, well, I'm not like you. You don't have to be at all like me, but you just should come and see what it's about, because your eyes will definitely be opened.
Well, plug for next week's episode and for a future chamber event. Next week's episode is all going to be about networking.
Beautiful.
People don't know how to network, and they join the chamber and they join leads groups and they sit back and wait for somebody to approach them, for business, and that's not how networking and community works.
You're very good at that, though, Julio.
I've always been a connector, because I listen. I listen to what people have to say,
Right.
and I'll be in a conversation with somebody and they're talking about whatever, they had a bad day because they got a flat tire, and I've got a tire shop for you, and I've got this for you and that for you, and that helps build community,
Right.
because you're bringing people together, and it's not just a business financial transaction, but I've funny kind of side story, but related. I am godfather to a brother and sister, and that is because I played matchmaker and got the parents together. So I was friends with one, I was working with the other, and one day it's like, you're single, you interested in meeting somebody? And kind of the rest is history. So when I say, we'll have a conversation after.
I was gonna say, who knew you were Cupid?
Hey,
we need to talk.
So when I say that I bring people together, literally in all aspects of life, but it means you have to be open to that. You have to be receptive. You have to listen to people, and that's what people see in you, because you are talking about all of these things on the radio. So she has to be connected, to all of these people.
Well, I walk my walk. I talk my talk, but I definitely walk my walk. Otherwise, why would you listen to me?
Yeah. And the chamber plug, we're going to have a networking 2-class series of networking sessions coming at the end of August. So keep an eye out for those.
I will be there, Julio.
Not that you need it, but you can help share it so that we can bring in a lot more chamber members.
That is not true, though. I always need to network, because a lot of times people will pigeonhole you in a certain role or a certain, So yes, I need to network just as much as anybody else. So I will be there. I don't have any business cards, because are those obsolete anymore? Does anyone even hand out business cards?
I, as digital as I am, because I think my background's all IT. I still give out business cards, because people, and I happen to have mine right here, people like to hold things, and yes, I've got my digital card, and you can scan, my phone to get all of my information, but when you give somebody, something tangible, they'll hold it more than whatever they absorbed, on their phone.
That's a good point.
And business cards get get a bad rap, and especially during COVID, you couldn't give business cards, but there's still tremendous value, to that takeaway. I just came back from a networking event, and I pulled out my business cards, and I have them right here in front of me, for 3 people I need to reach out to. And if they were just in my phone, they'd have been forgotten at this point.
You're right. Usually I will find a ton of business cards at the bottom of my purse and then go, where did I meet this person again? But I still have it. So you're right.
So, Julie, this has been a fantastic conversation, but no one leaves the show without providing some actionable suggestions to our listeners. So what can you tell our listeners on leadership and communications?
Well, it's been said and pounded into people's head when they just be yourself, but just be yourself. Be authentic. Be the awkward, silly, dorky person that you think you are, be that person. You will find your people. And the more that you're yourself, the more you don't have to remember what you told someone you were or how you acted. And I mean, listen, I'm guilty of doing that. We all are. We all want to put our best foot forward, and I don't want to look stupid, and oh my God, they're not going to like me, and all those things. I still have that, believe it or not. But then I'm just like, you know what? I'm too old for this. If you don't like me, it's okay. So just please be yourself. And in terms of communication, it is hard sometimes to be the first to say. I mean, I still have a hard time as well. But, I will say 9 out of 10 times that you approach someone and say hi, or, you're at an event and you don't know what to do, you will get a positive response. So take that risk in making that move, or at least put yourself in a position to be the person that someone approaches, and be open.
Because that person is feeling just as awkward as you are.
Yes, I think we all suffer from that paralysis. And I think that once you realize that I had this conversation with someone the other day. We're always so concerned about what we're doing and how we're walking and what we're wearing, but everybody else is too. So if you remember that and you just worry about you and you show up and be who you are, you'll meet the people you're supposed to meet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was supposed to meet you, Julio.
Absolutely. We had a lot of fun together throughout the leadership.
It was a great experience.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. For me, it was the airport. I'm an aviation buff, so being out on the tarmac again was a ton of fun. What was your favorite part?
I actually had to miss that day. Unfortunately, I heard it was a lot of fun. My favorite day, media day was my favorite day, but my second favorite day was, I think, the day we visited the police department and the fire department. In addition to all the cute boys that were there, I loved to see the inner workings of the whole operation. It was wild. It was really, really informative. I loved it.
Yeah, that was a really great day. But I was glad, for media day to come, into the studio and see you and Tamara, playing off each other.
What surprised you the most? What surprised you the most?
What surprised me the most? It's not really a surprise, but we don't give enough credit to the people that work behind the scenes.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ricky of the radio show.
No, in general.
In general, we don't give enough credit to people. Ricky works for the county, and I know how difficult it is to be in that kind of environment. We look at our politicians, and we discredit them and the people behind them, but there's a lot of very good work that happens behind the scenes, and we got to see some of that. From a media day perspective, I was surprised how small your studio is.
Really? And actually, we have one of the bigger ones.
I was expecting like a studio,
Yeah, we're not Howard Stern.
Yeah, they're not like that anymore. There's no need for them anymore.
They're not.
No, that was a lot of fun. All right, so thank you very much, Julie. I really appreciate it. This has been an incredible conversation with Julie Guy, radio veteran, community leader, and the voice so many in South Florida have grown up with. From that unexpected pivot into radio over 30 years ago to becoming one half of the most beloved radio duos in the region, Julie's shown us that leadership isn't always loud. It's consistent, it's compassionate, and most of all, it's real. Julie leads by letting people in. Her voice isn't just familiar, it's dependable, it's comforting. Julie leads by letting people in. Her voice isn't just familiar, it's dependable, it's comforting, and it reminds us that showing up as our full selves, imperfections and all, is not only enough, it's powerful. Julie, thank you for waking up with South Florida every weekday, and thank you for waking up all of us today to what it really means to lead with presence, purpose, and with people in mind. Leadership isn't just about being heard, but the message you deliver. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room, but the most authentic. How's your leadership heard by those around you? We'll see you next time on From Stuck to Scale.
You've been listening to From Stuck to Scaled, Growth Strategies for Small and Mid-Sized Businesses, produced by Optocution LLC. For more information, tools, and resources, check out our website www.redefinepossible.co/podcast.